Hello, this is Candy from eyes2jesus.blogspot.com, and I thought I would do just a little video on putting together our 2019 planner. So first things first is you need to decide what kind of planner do you want. Do you want it ring bound, spiral bound, hard bound, disc bound, etc. I'm still not positive which planner I'm going for 2019, but so far I think I'm going to go with ring bound. Alright, and then you need to decide what size. Since I'm going to go with ring bound, do I want personal or portable size? Do I want more of a A5 or desk size? Or do I want a full letter size? Or do I want a small pocket size? So far I'm going to go with personal size, which is going to be roughly the size of Michael's Recollections planners. However, I'm going to go with a planner that has a bit of a smaller footprint in personal size, so I think I'm going to go into a Filofax Malden. Mind you, my planner tour for 2019 January may be entirely different from what you're seeing today, because I'm still not positive which planner I'm going to end up in by the time we hit next month. But once you have chosen your planner size and your planner type, and for the examples in this video we'll be doing personal size, your next step is to choose your inserts. If you want to do some really cheap inserts but that still work pretty good, you probably want to look at Day Runner or At a Glance, or you can make your own. In addition to your inserts, you have to decide, is there any pages that you're going to design on your computer and print out that you want to put into your planner? If so, come along with me to my computer, because that will be our next step. So here we are at my computer, and I just make my printouts in Microsoft Word. And there's all sorts of different ways to do this. You could just shrink percentage before you print. You can print it out as a booklet with wide margins and cut it out. You could get personal size paper and adjust your printer and print directly onto personal size paper. The way I do it is I have all my pages here written up that I want for my planner, and there's 71 of them. But before I wrote up all these pages, I set my margins to a custom setting. So you can see there, the top and bottom are both 2.25 inches. The left and right are both 2.5 inches. And that prints out perfectly for a personal size planner. It also works good for personal wide and for mini happy planners. So that's what I do. And then once I have all these updated and how I want them, I'm going to print it duplex, double-sided. And once you have them printed out, it's just a matter of cutting them to size and punching them. I just take a sheet of personal size note paper from my planner, and I just line it up against the pages, mark their dimensions. While I'm at it, I mark where the holes are supposed to be, and then I use binder clips. Look how cute those are. I use binder clips to bind together a whole bunch of pages at once, and then that way I can cut a whole bunch at the same time on my guillotine paper cutter. And then I use a crocodile punch, and I punch one hole at a time. But with a crocodile punch, I can punch through up to 20 sheets of paper at once. So I do have a 6-hole punch where I can punch up to 4 sheets of paper at once, but I find it's much quicker to punch one hole at a time on a much larger stack of papers with my crocodile punch. Alright, so now that inserts are printed out, the next step is to pop them in. So put in all of your 2019 calendars and your planning pages, put in your printouts, and then the next step I would say would probably be to go ahead and work on a dashboard or a welcome page. For a dashboard or a welcome page, you might want to just grab a piece of pretty scrapbook paper, maybe throw on a journaling card or maybe some artwork from one of your children. And again, just use a blank sheet of size paper, for example, if you're doing personal size. And what I do is I turn the sheet of paper upside down, and this is not the paper used for my dashboard, by the way. You have to wait for my January tour to see it. And then I would line up this sheet of personal size paper here on the back. I would use a pencil to draw a line up here, so I know how tall to cut it, and then I would draw a line right here. And this is just a line, a folding line for me. I would then take this off, and I would line this up with the side line I just made, line it up again, and then draw another line here, maybe put a little X here to know that we're not using this part, and then take that off. I would then just cut where I drew the top line, and then I would cut right here. This middle line is just a folding line and is irrelevant at this point. So then after I have it cut, I'm going to have a piece of the scrapbook paper that I chose that's double the width of this. So then I fold it in half, and then I have a double-sided dashboard with the same paper on both sides. So that's what I do usually to make my dashboards. Unless you want a different paper on the back, then just measure it out and cut it out to one width, and then tape them together or glue them together. So that's what I did for a dashboard. To see the dashboard that I am going with so far, you'll have to stay tuned to my 2019 January planner tool. And now it's time to make dividers. Here is one of the dividers that I just made. So there's a possible preview to my 2019 setup if I use this. So this one is already done. So I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm actually working on making my third divider right now. I have my first two made. So I picked out the scrapbook paper that I wanted to use, which is this one for my third divider. Alright, and then I grabbed a divider to use as a template, so I used the third divider from my current planner, alright, which is my budget divider, and I used it as a template. Now, if you don't have dividers that you can use to trace as a template, then just use a sheet of personal sized paper and trace it out as a template, and then just draw on a tab. And one thing you need to let go of when you make your own dividers is let go of perfection. They will never come out perfect, but they can come out pretty nice. So yeah, either use a sheet of paper to trace it and freehand draw a tab, or if you already have some dividers you can trace as a template, use that. And here's how I traced this as a template. I set the divider down on the corner where I wanted the pattern, and I wanted those purpley flower to be in there, so I had to choose this corner. Alright, and then I set the divider down on top, I lined it up, and then I drew a line, as you can see, up here for the height, and then the next line I drew was over here. See, it lines up with the tab for where the tab comes out. Alright, and then I took this and I moved it over and I lined it up with the line where I drew for the tab, and then I drew a line over here marking where the tab came out. So, like with the dashboard, I'm going to make a piece of paper that I can fold over double-sided so it's a double width. But instead of this being double width of a standard sheet of paper, it's double width going out to the width of where the tab sticks out. Alright, so it's got to be wider, so we need to have room to cut out a tab. So, as you can see, I didn't trace the whole divider. I just traced the height of the divider. I just do a line for a height of the divider. And then I did a line for how far out the tab goes for the width. Alright, so I just now cut it to its dimensions. There is my little fold line there. So you see it's a double width of a divider. And you already see the crease because I already folded it in half off camera. So here it is folded in half. Now, you want the open side to be the side that you punch that goes into your rings. So I'm going to move that over there. And then make sure that the open side is to the left, because that's the side that will eventually be punched and going into your rings. And then make sure the front is right side up. That looks right side up to me. Now I could just leave it like this. By the way, we'll be doing a tab in a bit. But I think I want to put a card on it. You can do a journaling card, a sticker. You can paste on some artwork from one of your children. I have some cards here from one of my paper packs, so I have plenty to choose from. And I think I'm going to do the Make Yourself Proud one. So I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm just going to use a small piece of double-sided sticky tape, and I'm going to pop this in the middle of here. Alright, so yeah, I think the Make Yourself Proud card is going to look cute on this paper. So I'm not going to tape that on yet. What I'm going to do next, though, is I'm going to cut out my tab. And then after I have my tab cut out, then I will tape this on so I can see how it looks. So I'm going to use my template again, and I'm just going to line it up, and then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace all down here, and I'm going to trace out this tab. Alright, after that, this is where it gets exciting, then I'm going to freehand cut this out. I'm going to freehand cut out the tab and then cut off the excess. So this is one of the major parts where you have to give up having it perfect. So I just traced it, so you can see pencil shows up even on the black here. so I can see it just fine. And I'm going to use my old Target Dollar Spot scissors, and I'm going to cut all along the line. After I'm done with that, I'm just going to take an eraser and I'm just going to erase along the edges that I cut to get rid of any possible leftover pencil marks. Okay, and here it is cut out, and I used some double-sided sticky tape, and I just sticky taped that on there in the middle. And remember the open side is the side that's going to be punched and go into the rings, and the closed side is now only being held closed by the tab. The rest of the closed side is now open, but your tab is still closed at the fold, and that gives you a nicer, more secure tab. So now I'm going to make a second divider before I do anything else with this. Before I laminate this, I'm going to do another one so that I can laminate 2 dividers at a time and save laminating paper. And I have my 2 dividers I'm working on inside a laminating pouch. So now it's time to run them through the laminator. Alright, so I just got them out of the laminator. It's still a little bit hot. By the way, I wanted to mention you don't have to have a laminator to make dividers. If you don't want to laminate or you don't have a laminator, you can go ahead and just trace them out and cut them out from some pretty cardstock, or you can get some of those really cheap, pretty folders or file folders from the dollar store. That's a nice thick material, and you can just trace and cut dividers out of that and then decorate them up. They don't have to be laminated, but this is the way that I do my dividers. So now that these are laminated, I am going to cut these out. And so on 3 sides I will use my paper cutter, but on this side I'm going to have to just freehand cut it with my scissors so that I can cut out the tab. And remember, don't try to be perfect, it won't happen. So once you have the dividers cut out of the laminate and you freehand cut here around the tab, now that's all that's left to do on the dividers is to punch them. So first you need to mark the holes. And again, I just take a sheet of personal size paper, since that's the size planner I'm doing this for, and I laid it on top of the divider, and then I used a blue Sharpie marker and I just put a little dot marking the center of each hole. I'm now going to take my crocodile punch and punch where I marked. And I've got 4 out of my 5 dividers made. So now I'm going to go through the process. I'm going to make 1 more divider, and then I'm going to make my master schedule for 2019, and then I'm going to laminate those together. Alright, so I just put together my 2019 master schedule and printed it out. And then I trimmed it down nice and small, and I just double side taped it to some scrapbook paper. So now I'm going to laminate this along with my last divider, then get them cut out, trimmed, and put them to my planner. So at this point, I just need to put everything together. I got my 2019 inserts already. I'm going to put in my 2019 dividers I just made, pop in my new master schedule, and then my 2019 planner, if this is the one I end up using, will be ready.